Hi, and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast for another Authors Tuesday. So today I'm delighted to be joined by another great author, Liam McNevin, who's a Dublin writer, and he writes some great poetry. So I'm looking forward to talking to Liam tonight. Thanks very much, Liam, for coming on. You're very welcome into the show.
Oh, it's great to be on.
Yeah, thank you. And so we'll probably start off the podcast today. Just if you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and the books, the type of books you write, would be brilliant.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Virginia House Creative Writers. We're based in Tala. Maria Wallace is the lady who runs that, and she has been doing it for a number of years. We meet on a Friday night, and I'm going there since 2013. We've had a number of books, Tala Soundings,
Okay.
an anthology by the writers in the group.
Mm-hmm.
And we're due to have another one later on this year. I think it's Tala Soundings 5 now. So that's where I really started out on the writing journey. I had thought about it for a while, but it's good to be in a group, rather than writing in a void.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Liam. Yeah, I agree with you 100% there, because the ideas you get from different writers, and I don't know if your book club they write out prompts, because the one I'm in we write out prompts, which is really good fun, isn't it? Do you work off that yourself, Liam?
We do it that way as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be given a picture, or you might be given a quote or a piece of text, or just anything. You just have a look through them and you choose from there, and the feedback is very important, because you do get the impression then, well, maybe I can do this, I've been in other groups now, and they're more, when you go into them, you'd have a piece of prose or a poem written, and you'd read it out, and then they'd give feedback on it, but the group I'm in, the prompt comes first, then people read out their pieces from the prompt, and then you can bring along pieces that you've worked on at home during the week to be critiqued, So
yeah, it's a great idea, isn't it? It's a brilliant way of doing it. I agree 100%. Yeah,
because sometimes if you think too much about it, you won't try. If you're put on the spot, you can, it can happen as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, great. And can you just talk to me about the book that you've written as well, Times Present and Past? It's really good. It's a book of poetry, is it?
It's a book of poetry. Yeah, when I started with the Virginia House Creative Writers, I was more into short stories and prose. But then one of the members, he ran an open mic session on a Saturday in the county library in Tala, and it was there that the love of poems was kind of captured, because people would come and read their stuff, and it kind of, I got what you were trying to do, and I said, yeah, I go down that avenue then,
Yeah, no, I've read your poetry. It's really, really good. For everybody that's listening, I'm going to share Liam's links on the show notes as well to check out. So make sure you do that, because you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's really good. Because you were going to read one of your poems out this evening as well, Liam. If you don't mind.
The themes on the book is about love, loss, and life moving on. Which one will I start on? Where I got my ideas for some of the poems. It's just about being aware of what's happening around you and capturing the moment. One thing that's always fascinated me is bridges, as I've come along the Grand Canal, and the light that gets captured in bridges. So, so I was intrigued by why they fascinated me so much. So I took the time to write about it, and when you get out everything on paper what it is. You just put it, you add rhythm then and rhyme, and then you turn it into a poem.
Yeah,
The bridge, I'll read. Yeah,
brilliant.
the bridge. Ornate structure, seen as a thoroughfare, but down along the bank, I see trees and urban dwellings captured in the fixed, arched frame. Century light on water flickers upon the intrados, and I, in brief transport, am like Kavanagh, dawdling on ancient mythologies until the clamour of bus and truck remind me why I am here. Walking back along the road, I see you at our meeting place, from where we will go for a takeaway and have a night in front of the telly. So that's one there now. That's short and sweet.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Liam. That's really really good. Like, was that off one of the prompts or was that, where did that
Uh,
idea come from?
it probably could have started there, but I always remember coming up along the canal driving, and you know, sometimes some bridges are very ornate, and
Yeah,
they do. It was just struck by the light coming through. It was like an aperture in a photograph, and it was
yeah,
kind of capturing something. It was kind of timeless. So
yeah,
I just it's exploring feelings and what what was it that uh, intrigued me so much. So that
yeah.
was the finished product from that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really good, Liam. Really good. Like, a real treat for the listeners. Great stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
And come here. Can I just ask as well, Liam? Do you have a structure that you use when you're writing your books? Like, what I mean by that, kind of what inspires you, or what keeps you motivated in your writing?
Well, you do need a discipline to sit down at a certain time of the day, or in a regular time anyway. But you
Yeah.
do need to be out and about as well to get your
Mm.
material. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, no, sitting down is very important. Regularly doing
Mm.
it, and not leave it till the Friday night of the writers group kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once you do that, then you'll start
Mm.
seeing more regular writing. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh,
as I
that's
say,
great.
like if you capture moments and you just record them down, one of them, I'm at a time in my life now where people are passing on, and
Mm.
I wrote a poem there to honor people who have passed on, pay tribute,
Very
and
nice. Very
out
nice.
of gratitude for
Mm.
having them in my life, I suppose.
Yeah.
So one of the poems is called Month's Mind,
Oh, very good.
and this was written within the confines of a church. So I'll read it now, Mark.
Thanks,
Month's
Liam.
Mind.
Thank you.
Month's Mind gathering brought me here today, to the chapel of my boyhood, married, then moved away. The news of someone's passing makes me sad, but glad I knew them. Memory recalls within these walls more vibrant days, the elders present, mostly gone now. These cameos on halcyon days cause me to dawdle a while wondering why the past seems incidental to the present. Such thoughts and ideas are belied when life throws up a surprise. An old couple's amble reveals Betty and Tom Marnell, looking hale and hearty. Oh, the tales of back then they tell. Though never really known to them, I go and wish them well.
Oh, wow, that's really moving. That's really moving.
Yeah,
Thanks very much for sharing that, because
you know,
because it's such a good point you make in the poem there. It's a really good point you make, Liam. Really good point.
yeah, yeah,
Because you have to, like, as you're probably aware, I've recently lost a valuable member of my family. So like hearing that, like listen, look, remember the good times is so important, isn't it? Of
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And being aware of
yeah,
it, you know,
mhm,
because
yeah,
an awful lot of, you know, when people die, it is sad, but there is happy times there to be remembered as well. I think they just get mixed
yeah,
up in the emotion, you know, and people don't,
yeah,
you know, they probably way more on the sadness part of it, you know. But
hmm
it's a grieving process anyway, you know.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's a really nice poem. Thanks a lot for sharing that with us. That's really good.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites always. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, yeah. And where can people buy your book as well? It's on Amazon, is it?
No, it's not on Amazon. I have it in Alan Hanna's in Rathmines,
Oh, very good. Yeah, yeah,
Hamptons in Donnybrook,
very good.
Rathfarnham Bookshop, the
Hmm.
Company of Books in Ranelagh, or you can buy it through. You can buy it from me on liammedia15@gmail.com.
Great stuff.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's €13. That includes postage and packing. So
Great stuff. Yeah.
it's reasonable
So
enough. Yeah.
yeah, it's great. I'll actually put that on the show notes for people to find, because I love that you're doing that, keeping it local. You know, to
Yeah.
local
Yeah.
bookshops. That's a really good. And can I ask you as well, Liam? Did you find it difficult to get your books into the bookshops for anybody that's new who've published their first book, or the first
Yeah.
time writer?
Well, the small bookshops are better, Mark. You know,
Okay.
um,
Mm.
the bigger bookshops you have to fill in. They have distributing agent. You know,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then you kind of have to write up a proposal and that kind of thing. Where
Mm.
the smaller bookshops, you know, you're talking to the owner, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
just
more.
easier now. It doesn't mean they're going to sell any quicker, but they're in there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And
It's all a learning process, you know.
mm. And it's more personal as well. Like the way you're saying, you're kind of talking to the owner. You know.
Well, it is, and what
Yeah.
they share experiences of, you know,
Mm.
what sells and what, you know what I mean, the different trends and stuff like that. And before you know it, and it's, you know, the one-to-one contact, and you
Mm.
probably even forget what you were in the shop for to bring in the book, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but it is
Mm.
nice. The one-to-one is nice, you know, where if you're sending out emails and you're hoping people get back to you, and it's, you know, um yeah, so that's how it went for me. I really stuck to the Dublin bookshops really, because
Mm.
uh it was I launched it during the pandemic as well, so a lot of bookshops, you know, they weren't open, so they weren't selling, you
Mm.
know, they didn't have footfall. You know, I know they were doing their best to keep the online sales, and they were very competitive doing that. But
Mm.
I know from fellow writers and that they were getting so many requests to take books that I just said I'd leave it alone during the pandemic anyway, you know, because
Yeah.
they would have had an awful lot of stock they went shifting,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So there's poems on nature as well, and love, as I said.
Yeah.
Um, would you like to hear another one, Mark?
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Just before you do, can I just ask you one question, Liam?
Hmm?
Do you have them in the library as well for people to pick up?
Yeah, I Alan Hanna's. They are library supplies. You
Okay.
used to be
Yeah.
able to, in the past, you used to be able to go into your local library and they take them, you know,
Hmm.
but now it goes through you have to go through. Alan Han is the one for Leinster, I think, or certainly Dublin anyway. But there is
Yeah.
different library suppliers around the country. Again, I found the Dublin library is very supportive,
Yeah.
um, and understandably so. Anyway, you know, you look after your own, like it's the same around the country,
Exactly.
I'd say, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it does take a bit of energy and
Mm.
organizing, but
Yeah.
you know, but it's like anything. It's your first time around the block. You know, there's always going to be more energy put into it,
No,
Yeah.
that's great. No, well done to you, Liam. That's great, because your poetry is great, and you're gonna let us hear in one of your nature ones. That would be great. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This was written during COVID. I know there was a lot of sadness during COVID, but we did have permission to nearly, to certainly slow down and take stock of things, and people were working from home, and the pace of life did slow down. So
Definitely. Yeah.
this poem is called Holiday Morning, and I wrote it one morning when I got up extra early. Holiday morning. Moon's drenching light, end of night. Grey swollen cloud, a gable's shock white. Silence but for wildlife, my heartbeat, cobbler feet. Mottled lichen, stone wall, wildflower scent so sweet. Lone star visible in a sky of pastel green. Cumulus glow of sunrise, Mars embossed vermilion. In awe I acknowledge the splendor of it all. Creation I'm a part of, significant though small.
Oh wow, that's great. That's brilliant. Yeah.
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 It's
There's
about
great.
capturing moments.
Yeah, there's great metaphors in that poem as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Great.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it was. I was out early that morning, so
Mm.
it was high summer, so it would have been 5 o'clock, say,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I got all the senses, and because it was so
Mm.
quiet, I was able to just take it all in and ask myself, what is it I am seeing here? So,
Yeah.
and then, well, once you get them down, you can go home later and tweak it. Then,
Yeah.
after you get back up in bed.
Yeah, that's great. Fair play to you. That's brilliant. I love that one. That's one of my favorites as well. It's great. I'm sure the listeners are really enjoying this. Thanks, Liam. And that
Okay,
kind of brings
yeah.
me nicely to the next question, if that's okay. How have you found, like, the last 2 years with your writing? Have you found it kind of difficult because we didn't leave the house much? Or how was your experience of it yourself, Liam?
Um, in some ways, it got better because, as I mentioned, it gave you permission to slow down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't, you didn't have to go to work, or if the
Mm.
work wasn't there, and it was a kind of an official
Yeah.
time for people, to just to wind down. So I did
Mm.
find myself sitting at the desk, and
Mm.
just giving myself that time, and whatever was coming up for me, just to record it, because sometimes you when you sit down to write, you don't know, you don't have any ideas, you don't
Mm-hmm.
know what it is you've sat down to write, and you
Yeah.
have to just have to wait, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that way, and sometimes it's just an idea that'll come into your head, so
Mm-hmm.
in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Brilliant.
then there was competitions and submissions put out by different editors of different magazines to write COVID poems, just
Mm-hmm.
for posterity and things like that. So I found myself doing that, so that was good.
Great. Yeah. And so, like the way you were saying earlier on, that you kind of have to be kind of out in the air, like, to kind of get sometimes to get ideas. I'd be the same as you. Did you find that part of it a bit different, like, or how did you manage that with your writing?
Again, because it was a lockdown time, there was more
Mm.
time to be doing that,
Yeah.
because
True. Yeah. Yeah.
I say it in one of the poems.
Mm.
Uh, these days it's called, but it reminded me of when I was a teenager. Before you
Mm-hmm.
have responsibilities, and
Yeah.
the COVID time reminded me of that. I think I have a line in the poem saying, "My mind back then was no slave to time," so
Oh
I was
wow.
just able
Yeah.
to
Brilliant. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
record moments.
Great
You know,
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, that's great, Liam. Thanks very much. And kind of who would you say would be your main influences in your writing, or who would your favorite artist to read yourself?
Um, I'm not too sure. Um, there's probably Heaney and Yeats, but
Mm,
um, Hopkins, Gerard Manley Hopkins. I liked his
okay.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Felix Randall, the farrier. We
Mhm.
done that in school, and it's about the farrier. He makes the horseshoes for the horses, and uh, Hopkins was a priest, so he would have tended to him. But the way he writes the poem is he reminds himself of how the farrier was in his younger days, and then he got an illness, and he was able to bring it all together, and that was very inspirational for me as well. And the Windhover,
Yeah. Oh
those
yeah. Yeah.
poems,
Great
so
stuff. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's funny, when when you're writing this stuff, when you're looking back, you're saying, God, this is where I kind of might have got the inspiration. So that's great. It might remind you of something that you've read before, that you put down. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've often been, the when you could be reading a piece and you have to stop and say, how did that person say that
Yeah.
in in 2 lines? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And bring
Yeah.
you right into the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great, absolutely great. But yeah, as well as that, did you did you get a publisher yourself, Liam? Did you get a publisher to do your book, or what way did you go about it yourself?
Yeah, the lady I know, Mary Guckian, she's from
Mm,
Swan Press. She's involved with the Rat Minds writers, so I
okay,
got it published through them,
great
um,
stuff.
which was very handy.
Mm,
Uh, and then you'd have to do it's called the legal deposit when you get your ISBN, and you have to send
mhm,
it off. I think it's to 13 different libraries. There's so
okay.
many in Ireland, and then you have the British one, and there's one in America, and
Mm,
there's one in Scotland, and but that all takes time. But it's nice that it's being acknowledged anyway. That
brilliant.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So yeah. I probably should have had more of that done before I published the book rather than afterwards. But it was just the way it happened.
Mm,
I just found
okay.
myself having more time than
Yeah,
I would normally have. Yeah.
yeah.
But maybe if it wasn't for COVID, maybe I wouldn't have got around to publishing the
Mm,
book.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's funny you should say that. I know COVID's been horrible for a lot of people, like with illness and all that kind of stuff. But I agree with you 100%. There are a lot of people have done different stuff, haven't they? Like started writing books, and me doing this
Yeah. Yeah.
podcast. Like it has actually, got people to use more of their talents, hasn't it? Really?
It has, yeah. And it's brought people more together in some ways, even the Zoom
Mm.
calls. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm.
I'd, be on Zoom calls and there's people from all over the country on it.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
before, where before, like if you were working till 5 or half 5 and you're in
Mm,
traffic, you might just,
mm.
well, I won't, I'm home late and I won't bother going back out again. Where when
Yeah.
you're on the Zoom call, it was so handy. You
It
just
was.
click,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Great
And it's
stuff.
still
Yeah.
going, still going on anyway. It's a lot of
Mm,
people prefer it that way, really. In some ways, especially if you're doing stuff and if you're working and
mm.
you're doing anything in the evening, it's very handy not to go back out again.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm involved in one called the Ink Slingers. It's a writers group, and he did it on Zoom all the way through COVID, and that's when I joined in. And it's
Okay.
funny, like you have people all over the world who've joined this group now. So you have people from America, from Brazil, from everywhere. So it's got
Yeah, it is
it
amazing,
went
isn't it?
it went from just being an Irish one to worldwide. Has your one gone like that as well, kind of, Liam? Or
Not so much now. We didn't do it. we didn't do the writers group during Zoom now, but the
Okay.
other groups I'd be in just to meet up with people and have a chat. Um, to be from England and down the country and all over, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did start up my own. Well, it's kind of a writers group, but I call it the story and telling and writers group. It's on a Mondays,
Yeah.
and I started it with the men's sheds because I thought with the
Okay.
pandemic and things that they weren't open, the men's sheds. It was just
Mm.
for men to meet up and have a chat, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
Now
great. Yeah.
they'd just share experiences and life experience, and the writing would happen from there, you know. Now
Mm.
I tried to have a kind of a structure during the week, but
Mhm.
oh no, sorry, during the class, but they were more interested in having the chat, and then they do a bit of writing during the week in their own time, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that's good, you know, because and it's
Mm.
nice to have other people slant on
Mm.
or whatever's going on, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it is because you get so much ideas from the different people in the group, don't you? Like, that,
Well, you do,
like,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
you get a different
mm,
window. You might, you know,
yeah,
we all tend to look at things a particular way all the time, and someone else says,
mm.
that's not doesn't make sense at all or something, you know.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
all of a sudden then you have material for writing or whatever, you know. You can put
yeah,
that person in there, you know.
yeah. But that's great. You've created a kind of a writers group yourself, Lee, and that's really interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, that's great. Like, because like anything, like if this didn't happen, we probably wouldn't be doing half of this stuff. You know.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. I
yeah,
never even
yeah.
heard of Zoom before this, you know.
No, yeah. But great. And can I just ask you as well, Liam, when you're writing, do you ever listen to any music when you're writing? Because it's kind of I've been having chats with people on the podcast who have been like listening to just classical music with no lyrics. Do you ever try that yourself?
No, no, I wouldn't really. It's more about getting the bum on the seat. And once I
Yeah,
can do that and
yeah,
just creating the space,
hmm
it's about it's just about being in that space and trusting
yeah,
what's going to come,
mm,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
Now, not everything you write, it's, you know, you kind of know yourself though. When you're onto
mm,
something, it kind of
definitely, yeah,
form itself pretty much in your head fairly quick, you know.
mm,
But again, the more you do it, the more confident you get at it.
exactly, exactly.
You know?
And these days, that poem these days, can you maybe say that one because that just sounds really interesting. That poem,
Oh yeah,
if you have it to
I'll
hand.
find it on the
Oh,
I'll find it on the contents page now.
yeah, because I can see it there. Like it's just you
Oh
remind
yeah,
me when you
yeah.
were talking about it. Yeah,
32. Yeah,
thanks very much, Liam.
yeah. These days, part of restrictions allow for work around the house, inside and out, to take daily exercise, write lines to a friend, watch catch up or player, read a book, call someone and have a chat. To come to terms with tedium, that function found in the moment, thus letting go, for what is there to hold on to? I track a bee's progress amongst the flowers in my garden and recall sedentary periods of youth. My mind back then, no slave to time.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's really really brilliant. Yeah, really really
Well,
good. Yeah,
that was written at the start of it, Mark. You know, when people
yeah,
were
mm,
can't go out and make sure you're
yeah.
standing, 10 feet away from
Fu-
the person that's passing you on the street. And
yeah,
whatever you do, if you see a jogger, run the other way.
exactly. Yeah. All they could do was watch the bee in the garden
Yeah,
and
yeah,
try and kind of keep a distance from that in case it stings, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Don't fall asleep, it might.
exactly. But no, that's great. It's a brilliant poem because I love the concept of these days because a lot of people were kind of feeling that way back then, like.
Yeah, it was such a
Yeah.
strange time at the start, and it was novelty really at the start because everyone was
Yeah.
like, "This is great," you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I actually wrote a song called "Social Distancing" when they started off for us. So I kind of get where you're going with it. It's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, really
And
good.
it probably
Yeah,
came to you handy enough, did it?
it really did actually. Yeah, it
You
really
know,
did. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's
So
great
you
stuff.
probably know when you're onto a good thing or
Yeah, exactly,
something that's going
exactly.
to last, you know. Yeah.
And can I just ask you as well, Liam, movies? Do you like any? What movies do you like to look at yourself? Favorite movies?
Um, not nothing springs to mind. Nothing springs to mind. Yeah.
Like I suppose, like there's some great authors that have wrote books that have made movies. Like like for instance, Philip K. Dick with the Running Man and all that kind of stuff. Isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah,
It's interesting. Because some films you watch, you never sometimes you never think of who wrote the book. To make such a good movie. Do you
yes,
find that
yes. I know.
yourself?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know where you're coming from. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I think
yeah.
screenwriting then is different then, isn't it?
Mm,
But
yeah.
they kind of stick to the pretty much to the original book where they can.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Because I find I'd rather watch the film first because the book is so good because your imagination is so strong, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It's great.
yeah. I
Yeah.
suppose when my son Niall was growing up, Harry Potter would have happened at the same time, and I
Mm.
would have been reading the books with him until
Oh
he got
yeah.
to an age where he was finished before I even started the next one, like you know. But
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was interesting to see the book and then the picture, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And music wise as well, Liam, do you have any what kind of music do you like? What's your favorite kind of music to listen to?
Um, well, I like the traditional music, and
Me too.
I kind of, you know, I would have a Spotify list, a playlist, but be mostly Codaline maybe or
Great band. Yeah.
old stuff, you know, even
Mm,
Joni Mitchell or um,
great.
REM, that kind of
Oh, what a
thing.
band! What a band!
You
Brilliant.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you
Just
ever see them live?
traditional music. No, no, no. The
Yeah, I said
traditional
them right.
music I
Yeah.
like as well. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah.
Great stuff. Yeah.
So hopefully the
Yeah,
music comes back into the pub soon. Anyway, the traditional
definitely.
stuff. Anyway,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. But no, this has been great, Liam. Thanks a lot for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on and talking about your writing. And definitely, I have all your links, so I'm going to put them on the show notes for people to check out as well and buy the book.
Yeah, yeah. It's been great. Been great being on.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to be
And
on.
what's next for you as well, Liam? Do you have any other books on the pipeline and the timeline?
Yeah, I was going to when I was bringing out this book, I was going to include short stories with it
Oh, great.
because,
Yeah.
and then I decided just to do the book of poems. You know.
Hmm.
So the next project then is the stories.
Great.
I'll get
Yeah.
them off. I'll get them off the laptop I have. The laptop I have isn't in great condition, and I don't want
Mm.
to end up losing them all. You know, so
Yeah.
it's a good idea to put them in. If you get a book together, they're all in one place anyway. You know,
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
with the poems anyway, I found out I had more than I thought I had. You know, so hopefully it's the same with the stories then. So
Yeah.
maybe later on the year, maybe.
Yeah. Well, basically, when you do come out, when you do have them published, certainly send them on to me, and you might come back on again and talk about the short story book. Would be great to have you back on as well.
It'd be great. Yeah. Thanks very much, Mark. Yeah, it's great that you're
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah. I can wish you all the best of luck with them going forward.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
yeah,
maybe just
I like it anyway.
sorry. Yeah.
The creative life anyway. I like it,
Yeah. It's brilliant.
and
Yeah.
it gives you
Absolutely brilliant.
confidence once you've to get something published.
Oh, absolutely does, doesn't it? Because could I just ask you, Liam, before you go, because it's a motivational podcast as well. If you could kind of give just a little bit of voice for people to listen from your own experience of writing, to kind of keep themselves motivated, what would you say to them? I don't want to put you on the spot, but just whatever you think that's helped you.
Well, joining a writers group definitely helps, because you have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And then you will get help, and you will get advice, and you'll get, I suppose, acceptance. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you're writing on your own, or if you're writing at home, say with your family, they're not necessarily the best people to give you, or maybe they do give you good advice, but you'd be better off joining people with like-minded interests. And then it's just a process, so I joined the Virginia House Writers in 2013, so it's just over that time. It was just something for me when the kids got to a certain age. I had more free time, and this is things I'd like to pursue, my Fridays that's when it's on Virginia House, but my Fridays were always taken up for 10 years. So great, I'm going for it.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, but if you can give it a bit of discipline, but as well by sitting down, even if you were to do a diary, just to track your thoughts, how you're doing, and yourself, it can keeps the hand and on the page as well. You know what I mean?
Definitely, Liam. That's great advice. Thanks very much. And as well as that, just to kind of you do a printing service as well for books as well. If you want to mention that, please.
Yeah, it's Liam Media. I've done books for my own writers group, the Virginia House Writers, and individual authors and poets. So I think I've done about 15 books now for people.
Great stuff.
Again, it's a learning curve now, but books take time to get printed. Like yourself, you could ask me now and come back to me in 6 months and say I haven't forgotten that, but there's a kind of a gestation period to people getting around to getting their work published, because in some ways you don't want to let it go, and in other ways it's a bit like me bringing out a book of poems. If I get that published, it's out there, and now I can move on to something else,
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's great advice as well. I'm sure you agree with me, Liam. For people not to have too much goals. It's enjoying the process really as well, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Well, it is, because you can't learn in any other way, really.
No.
I was listening to an interview with Julia Cameron. She wrote The Artist's Way.
Yeah, what a book.
And there was she was just saying about the pressure people are under now with social media to have everything perfect, and what they're looking at is the finished product a lot of the time, where they don't take into account the amount of time that it took that writer to get to where they were,
Exactly. Yeah. Because exactly. I couldn't agree with you more, because that's just a great book, because I actually did that myself. I got that myself. It's like a course, isn't it? Have you done that book yourself, The Artist's Way?
Yeah.
Where the morning pages and the artist dates.
Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, the artist dates is just giving yourself a bit of a treat, or
Yeah. It's really
it takes
good,
a bit
isn't
of getting used to, because you're taking time for yourself, and so it can be difficult to do, But the morning pages, when I started, I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to write 3 pages, But once you get in on it, it's just about clearing your head.
Yeah. It's and brain dump. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Because I found the affirmations part was very interesting as well in the book. Do you remember that part where she was like I was going, I think Lisa was saying she needed a suit. My wife was saying she needed a suitcase, and I was reading that part of the book that time, and lo and behold, a friend of mine said, "Oh, do you know anybody that's looking for a suitcase? We have a spare one."
Yeah, so it's just serendipity or whatever.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But
And it's about being aware of the things around you.
the universe,
know.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I definitely recommend for anybody that's listening to check that out. Check that book out. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
she was doing the interview. She says it's 30 years old now. Hard to
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. Well, I might try and get her on the podcast sometime. That'd be a great one, wouldn't
It would.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But thanks a million for coming on. You're very good, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors as well with your books and your writing.
Okay. Thanks very much, Mark. And I wish you all the best as well
Yeah.
in your pursuits.
Yeah, cheers, Liam. So that was Liam McNevin, everybody. So that's the first episode of season 5 of Authors Tuesday. So thanks a million for listening, and have a great week, and we'll talk to you on Thursday. Thanks again, Liam.
Thanks, Mark.
Salam. Thank you.